Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Mike Pounds.
Please clap.
It is a momentous day on the show today. Welcome to the show. Round the nation right here, TYT Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Man, quite a day. Actually, quite a couple of days. As this started yesterday, I'm going to get into the details. We've got a lot of stories on President Trump. We have the transcript / memo. We're going to talk about that. We've got a response to that by Lindsey Graham, Mitt Romney, and whether or not the Senate would actually, if impeachment goes forward, and that's still a question, right? And so not a victory yet, but I'll get into all the details and all that stuff. How many Republicans would vote to impeach Trump? We need 20. How many? Oh, that's a very interesting question. Very interesting question. Then we also have the Republicans accidentally sending talking points to the Democrats. Awesome. Oh, there's so much fail in today. Republican fail. And yet I'm still skeptical because I still think somehow the Democrats are going to botch it. But we'll get to that stuff later, okay? And then, of course, we do have the policy story that I promised you yesterday, Bernie Sanders and his wealth tax. I'm going to break that down, if that's a good idea, bad idea, give you the details. So, man, what a day. All right. Before I get into it, please like and share the stream, number one. So, trust me, you guys are not going to want to miss this show. It's amazing. So like and share. Patrons, I'm going to thank some patrons before we get into it, as usual. I want to thank $5 members. It's $5 plus. Liliana Flores, Lorelei, Mark Davis, and Martin Trammell. So thank you to all those people who support independent progressive media. You're the reason that we're here. You're the reason that I can continue to operate and continue to do this show. So thank you very much. Okay. Again, you know what? Get into it. Let's just get into it. All right. So we'll start out with important news that actually broke yesterday, and I want to get into the details of this. All right. Is it? So it's happening, or maybe. Yesterday, Nancy Pelosi announced that she has opened an official inquiry into whether they have enough evidence to file formal impeachment charges against President Trump. Now, I want to give you this video here. This is her announcement. Take a look.
And this week, the president has admitted to asking the president of Ukraine to take actions which would benefit him politically. The actions of the Trump presidency revealed the dishonorable fact of the president's betrayal of his oath of office, betrayal of our national security, and betrayal of the integrity of our elections. Therefore, today, I'm announcing the House of Representatives moving forward with an official impeachment inquiry. I'm directing our 6 committees to proceed with their investigations under that umbrella of impeachment inquiry. The president must be held accountable. No one is above the law.
So that's Nancy Pelosi, and that's a pretty strong statement, especially from Nancy Pelosi. She normally does not exude strength. And so that was kind of a surprise to me, how she comes out and she says must be held accountable. Betrayal of the oath of office, very, very serious allegations. And so it actually very strong. And I don't normally give Nancy Pelosi credit for being strong. So now, what's this about? Well, in case you've been living under a rock, it's about Trump pressuring the president of Ukraine to open a corruption investigation into Joe Biden or Hunter Biden. And so, so if you were to pressure as president of the United States, as Trump allegedly has, right? And to do opening an investigation, a foreign country to open an investigation. Why Ukraine? Because Hunter Biden, of course, worked for a Ukrainian gas company, had dealings with them. And then Joe Biden, what he did is allegedly shut down an investigation into that. So shady, yes. Unethical, yes. Illegal, no. But Trump saying, hey, Vladimir Zelensky, I'd like to ask you a favor. Please investigate my political opponent. Well, then that would be illegal because it would be a campaign contribution. And and you cannot get campaign contributions from foreign sources. That is literally illegal. So that is a crime. That is a crime. So now we also know, too, that Trump it wasn't just a one time. Trump had apparently pressured Zelensky at least 8 times in order to investigate Joe Biden. So now with this context, right? So now we know how illegal this is. I have to let you know that Pelosi is not a champion of impeachment. She did not want to do this. And I talked about this yesterday, right? Establishment Democrats were very wary of impeachment, especially Nancy Pelosi. It took 7 establishment Democrats. These are your people that are centrist, milquetoast, corporate Democrats, but they were in vulnerable districts, right? Red states. These red state Democrats, 7 of them said, no, we can't ignore this. Look, as much as we, don't want to rile up the Trump base, and as much as we want to win re-election, these are clear crimes. So, yes, we want to have an impeachment inquiry. Okay, now the straw that broke the camel's back, or in this case, Pelosi's back, has to be John Lewis. Now, John Lewis is a legend when it comes to civil rights, but John Lewis is also a member of the establishment and a very, very big ally of Pelosi. And so he comes out and he says this.
We will never find the truth unless we use the power given to the House of Representatives and the House alone to begin an official investigation as dictated by the Constitution. The future of our democracy is at stake. There comes a time when you have to be moved by the spirit of history to take action to protect and preserve the integrity of our nation. I truly believe, the time to begin impeachment proceedings against this president has come. To delay or to do otherwise would betray the foundation of our democracy.
So it's time to get moved by the spirit of history. So that's John Lewis, right? John Lewis, huge friend of Pelosi. Pelosi's like, I can't fight against that one. I don't want impeachment, and I was fine fighting against the squad, right? When Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar were saying impeach the MFer. Well, they're just a couple of people, with a couple of opinions. I don't agree with them. But now this is John Lewis. This is establishment Democrats that are saying, I'm sorry, but no, we have to. I mean, we have to impeach. These are clear crimes. So let's do something about it. Okay? And so now here's the thing. We have an impeachment inquiry. Now, what is that? What does that mean? It does not mean impeachment proceedings have begun. So let's get that out in the open, right? It means that they're going to be gathering evidence. Now, if there is enough evidence, that then they will then move forward with charges or articles of impeachment. So we're not quite there yet. And there is definitely a way that Democrats can bungle this, because there is nothing out there that the Democratic Party cannot bungle. And so let me explain, right? So now Nancy Pelosi's right now, she's looking at appointing a select committee on impeachment. Now, on this committee, it would be headed by Congressman Adam Schiff. So Adam Schiff, not exactly the strongest guy. Okay. Now, the thing is that right now, the House Judiciary Committee is supposed to handle impeachment proceedings, right? So now Jerry Nadler is not a fan of Adam Schiff, apparently. So there's some disagreement there, and there's disagreement between Nadler and Pelosi. So you're going to bypass Nadler and promote Adam Schiff. Now, the thing is that the House Judiciary is already in the middle of a bunch of different investigations into Donald Trump. So she's doing the select committee for impeachment. She's going to have to start at square one. They're not going to be able to have the evidence from the Judiciary Committee. So why would you go backwards on that? From all the evidence that's already been collected on Donald Trump, to start from square one, that doesn't make any sense. Now, it's also unclear if the House Democrats will hold another House vote in the coming days to authorize their inquiry formally and officially, as has been done in past presidential impeachments. We don't know. So Republicans have already jumped on this, and they said, well, if you don't actually hold a vote on this, then there's not truly an impeachment. No matter what the Democrats say, if there's no vote in the House for an impeachment inquiry, then you don't actually have an impeachment inquiry. Pelosi can say whatever she wants, but we're still not going to be able to give up the documents or anything like that. Nor did the Speaker lay out a timeline for the committees to do their work, according to the New York Times. So, as usual, half measures, it's still not there, but we're getting closer. We are getting a little bit closer. As usual with the corporate Democrats, it does take a while to actually get there. There's a lot of sound and fury and excitement, of course, but Pelosi has to make it official. She has to make it official. And here's the thing, she probably will. She's kind of on the hook now. I mean, she has said very, very strongly, as I mentioned before, that, look, he has betrayed the oath of office. Well, okay, well, if you don't go forward and make this impeachment inquiry official by having a vote, well, then, I mean, what are you doing? You're not doing anything. You're, again, being the assistants. So we don't know. We don't know. And we don't know what that select committee is going to look like. We don't know if she's going to have that select committee. And we don't know if they're going to be filled with people that are just going to bungle this, Pelosi loyalists, the people that are going to drag their feet. We just don't know. So I'm going to have to see what develops in this, because, again, this would be a really, really important step towards holding the president accountable, which is what we all want. Okay. All right. So now let's go to the transcript. So-called transcript. All right. Earlier today, the White House, in response to the House's impeachment inquiry, has released a so-called transcript, and I say that it's a so-called transcript because it actually isn't, of the July 25th call between President Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. So now the memo is about 5 pages long for a call that lasted about a half hour. Now in it, the president has clearly urged an investigation into Joe Biden and his corruption. Okay, so now let me go to the first part where Trump puts on some pressure. Now, this was during a discussion about the EU not doing its part, not doing enough for Ukraine. Trump says this. He said, quote, "The United States has been very, very good to Ukraine. I would not say that it's reciprocal necessarily, because things are happening that are not good, but the United States has been very, very good to Ukraine." Oh, we've been very good to them. Okay, I get the point, right? And I'm pretty sure that Zelensky also got the point. Yes, you've been very good to us. In fact, you've been, giving us money, you've been selling us weapons. And this was before, by the way, the United States had released, and Trump himself had released $400 million to Ukraine. Now, that was already earmarked for Ukrainian defense by Congress. Trump holds it up before they have this call. So that's important context. So now, Zelensky had responded, quote, I would also like to thank you for your great support in the area of defense. We are ready to continue to cooperate for the next steps. Specifically, we are almost ready to buy more javelins from the United States for defense purposes. Now, that's important too. Okay. Because to me, that's Zelensky saying, well, I mean, you'll release the $400 million and we'll buy more weapons from the United States. Well, that's how this works out, right? That's good to the defense contractors. Normally, that's how these types of corruption would work out, right? Oh, no, you give us defense money, we turn around, we buy American weapons, everybody wins. But in this case, Trump was asking for something a little bit more specific. And he spells it out. He said, I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot and Ukraine knows a lot about it. I would like you to find out what happened with this whole situation with Ukraine. They say CrowdStrike. I guess you have one of your wealthy people, the server. They say Ukraine has it. There are a lot of things that went on, the whole situation. I think you are surrounding yourself with some of the same people. I would like to have the Attorney General, it's William Barr, call you or your people, and I would like you to get to the bottom of it. As you saw yesterday, that whole nonsense ended with a very poor performance by a man named Robert Mueller, an incompetent performance, but they say a lot of it started with Ukraine. Whatever you can do, it's very important that you do it if that's possible. So do me a favor, right? Because we had this incompetent Robert Mueller fiasco, whatever. Now, because of that, I want you to look into the CrowdStrike thing. I want you to look into these servers. I want you to help out my buddy, Paul Manafort. Manafort wasn't named, of course, but there's the conspiracy theory that, oh no, it's the Democrats that work with Ukraine to get dirt on Manafort. Oh, okay. So now, that's that. That's the first thing. So now we go into the other one, right? And this is the Biden thing, right? So now he said, there's a lot of talk about Biden's son, that Biden stopped the prosecution, and a lot of people want to find out about that. So whatever you can do with the Attorney General, again, William Barr, that would be great. Biden went around bragging that he stopped the prosecution. So if you look into it, it sounds horrible to me. All right, so look into Biden, look into his son, Hunter, and just help me out with that. Again, that would be a campaign contribution because you are asking a foreign government to do an investigation into your political rival, and that investigation will help you politically, will help Donald Trump. So again, here you have it. Trump saying, I've been very good to Ukraine. We've been very good, the United States, but we need some favors. We need some favors. Now, Zelensky had responded that we will look into that situation, specifically with the company that you mentioned in the issue. That would be the gas company with Hunter Biden. So we will take care of that, and we'll work on the investigation of the case. To which Trump had eventually responded, after some further back and forth, quote, your economy is going to get better and better, I predict. Okay. Well, there you go. Look, Donald Trump might be dumb. And this is really to the response of, well, there no quid pro quo. I mean, it's not explicitly pointed out that we had this $400 million and that Trump was holding it in order to get this investigation. It's not there. No quid pro quo, right? Well, again, Trump's an idiot, but he's not that stupid. No, he's not going to say, I'm going to give you the $400 million if you do this for me. No, he pointed out earlier, He said, we've been very good to you. And so I would like a favor. I would like a favor. Because you have not been reciprocal in what we have been helping for you. Help me with Flynn. Help me with Manafort. Didn't say that explicitly. And look into Biden. So there you go. That is quid pro quo. It's just not spelled out explicitly because, again, he's a little bit smarter than that. Okay. Now, where Donald Trump's stupidity comes into play is that he thinks it's smart because he said this is a great call. It's a perfect call. Now, here's why he believes it's a perfect call. Because Zelensky, throughout the entire thing, if you read that, he kept complimenting Donald Trump. Let me give you some examples, right? He said, this is Zelensky to Trump. I would like to confess to you that I had an opportunity to learn from you. We used quite a few of your skills and knowledge, and we were able to use it as an example for our elections. Now, he also used Donald Trump's signature phrase during the election, and that was, we wanted to drain the swamp. So you use that catchphrase, right? Interesting. So now, he also said, I think I should run more often, Zelensky, so that you can call me more and we can talk over the phone more often. Oh, please, Donald Trump. I really enjoyed talking on the phone with you, and after I won my election, please call me more. Zelensky also said that Trump was a great teacher when it comes to politics. And also, this is really important too, because this gets into emoluments, right? Zelensky said that the last time that he stayed in the United States, he made sure to stay at Trump Tower. Now, he stayed at Trump Tower, and he's saying, I stayed at Trump Tower in this phone call. No, this is Zelensky saying, oh, look, you're so smart and you're so wonderful. I learned so much from you, and I stayed at Trump Tower. Please release that $400 million. That's the subtext. That's what's not being said from what we know. So, and if that's not enough, when they were having a conversation about Donald Trump coming to visit to Ukraine, Zelensky said this, quote, we can either take my plane and go to Ukraine, or we can take your plane, which is probably much better than mine. Butter him up, butter him up, butter him up. That's what you do. That's how you take advantage of Donald Trump and get what you want. Again, later on, Donald Trump released $400 million. So they ended up getting their defense money, which, again, they should have already gotten before that. But Trump held it up and then had this phone call. I think it's very obvious what's going on. I mean, again, they need that defense money, right? Oh, Mr. President, you're so great. You're so fantastic. Your plane is so much better than mine. I love staying at your hotel. I can't wait to do it again. I can't wait to talk to you again over the phone. Yes, we will. And he also agreed, we will be looking into your political opponent. So please give us that money. Can't be any clearer. It just can't. 100% illegal. Donald Trump must be impeached. Now, the reason I say that, even though Pelosi has said we're doing an impeachment inquiry, that is not articles of impeachment. Okay? She has to hold a vote in the House to make this thing official. She has not done that yet. Now, whether or not she will do that, I think eventually she will be forced to do that. And so hopefully we'll see that in the next few days. But what a gift she and the Democrats had received in this transcript. Which, by the way, not a transcript. This is a memo. This is a summary, right? In fact, on the first page at the bottom, it says, a memorandum of a telephone conversation is not a verbatim transcript of a discussion. And there are places where you could see that things were omitted. And so, not only that, but there are journalists that pointed this out. Remember I told you, this was a half-hour call. The transcript was about 2,000 words. The call took 30 minutes. That's about 66 words per minute. Now, the reason that I point that out, and that this reporter, Josh Benton, points out, is that seems a little slow. Yeah, but you don't understand. Like, maybe Zelensky's a little slow in his English, or maybe Trump's a little slow. I don't know. That might be. He might just be because Donald Trump's super slow. But that's about half the normal speaking rate of a normal person. Zelensky is fluent in English, by the way. So that's a little weird. And maybe it's because that there's parts of that conversation that are missing. I don't know. So they released a memo, and I think that they were too stupid to take out all the parts where Trump basically asks a foreign country who we are giving money to investigate their political rival. Now, that kind of begs the question. And by the way, they're like, that's not a crime. That's perfectly fine to ask a foreign country to investigate, our political opponents. No, not fine. Again, that is a crime. But if they think that's okay, and that looks good, this is like the best case scenario for them to release this. That begs the question of what did they take out? Really, really important question, and one I think we really desperately need to know the answer to before we can continue. And hopefully soon, with the whistleblower now going to testify in front of Congress, well, we'll find out. Man. All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a quick break. We'll come back. We've got the response, including Lindsey Graham freaking out, and Mitt Romney, and these different responses to this memo. So we'll come back. We'll do that. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Super chats, questions, comments, etc. I'll read a couple after the break. We'll be back in a couple minutes around the nation. Welcome back to the show. On the Nation right here, QD Nation. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Okay, so we got a couple of messages here. Sarge Tech says, if Trump weasels his way out of this, I've lost all faith in our democracy. Well, at this point, yeah, we wouldn't have a democracy left because Donald Trump would be able to do anything he wants, break the laws as much as he wants. I mean, shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue. Might as well. He gets away with everything. But maybe he won't get away with this. So that's my hope. Jeanette Villanona points out he's a stupid genius, referring to Donald Trump. Very stable, stupid genius. Very important. Okay. So I also want to welcome a new member, Richado Sissy Boy. Welcome. All right. Moving on here. So let's go to that response. Interesting response, to say the least. Okay. Now, earlier today, the White House released an unredacted memo, which keeps being called a transcript, and it's frustrating, of a call between Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Now, that memo appears to have Donald Trump pressuring the leader into investigating one of Donald Trump's political opponents. That would be Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, right? So now, in it, he mentions that the U.S. has been very, very good to Ukraine, but mentions that the Ukrainians have not been reciprocal. He then asks for a favor, and after Zelensky agreed to that favor, which would be looking into that gas company that Hunter Biden serves on the board on, as well as an investigation into Joe Biden and allegedly shutting down the prosecutor. Trump said the Ukrainian economy is, quote, going to get better and better, I predict. That's all in the context of, by the way, $400 million of U.S. military aid to Ukraine that Donald Trump was holding up before this call. So now, Republicans and Democrats, they've decided to weigh in, including Donald Trump, who called this a, quote, perfect call. Nothing wrong with it. It's perfect. What are you talking about? Well, the reason that Donald Trump calls it perfect is because Zelensky kissed his ass the whole time, did everything that Donald Trump asked him to. Now, he also says later on, it's Trump, the way you had built up that call, it was going to be the call from hell. It turned out to be a nothing call, other than a lot of people said, I never knew you could be so nice. So that's Trump's official response. They were telling me they never thought I could be so nice. Oh, now remember, this is a transcript, or it's not a transcript, it's a memo. And so there's likely some things omitted from it. Okay? Even so, what was left seems fairly disastrous. So now you have the response here from top Republicans and Trump allies. First, you have Representative Doug Collins, who's part of the House Judiciary. He said this on Twitter, quote, the transcript between President Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky reveals that Democrats have again leapt to conclusions before looking at the facts. Well, but we don't have the actual transcript of the call or like a recording or anything like that. No, we have a memo. That's it. Yeah, okay. Now, this is the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus. This is Mark Meadows. He said this, I've read the transcript, and the Democrat spin's all wrong. Again, President Zelensky initiated the Giuliani convo and asked the White House to send him to Ukraine. Now, Giuliani has said, yeah, I've went to the Ukraine. I've talked about this investigation. That's not a question, right? But Meadows continues in saying, zero discussion of foreign aid quid pro quo. That's it. That's what the Democrats are impeaching on. Give me a break. Oh, okay. So let me address that. Now, did Zelensky, was he the first one to bring up Giuliani? Yeah. Then Trump said, well, you should talk to Giuliani, you should talk to William Barr, and you should also do an investigation of Joe Biden. Now, Zelensky did not mention Joe Biden at all. In fact, Zelensky was saying, we're going to buy more missiles from you. We're going to buy more American weapons. That's our way, since Trump had mentioned before in that conversation that, well, Ukraine, you're not, you're not being reciprocal. We were so very good to you, and you need to be more reciprocal. And they said, well, absolutely, I agree 100%. We're going to buy more missiles from the United States. Is that what you want? Trump said, no, I need a favor. Look into this CrowdStrike thing. Oh, and also look into Biden and look into Hunter Biden and his son. Or I should say, look into Biden and his son, Hunter Biden. So, okay. He said, I want to ask you a favor. Now, what happens to money from? They're holding up $400 million in military aid. They're likely to be pressured into doing that favor. Also, again, mentioning we've been very good to Ukraine seems to imply quid pro quo, even though it's not exactly explicitly pointed out, right? How many can get. Now, other Republicans have said, and this is Bill Weld, right? Admittedly, running a primary against Donald Trump, such as it is. Bill Weld's like, this could be treason, and if that's true, death penalty. There's only one penalty for treason, and that's to put him to death. Well, now, that's strong. Mitt Romney, though, that's about as strong as Mitt Romney gets, right? Deeply, deeply troubling, right? So now there's more for Republicans, right? So now, and this is interesting. This is Republican consultant Mike Murphy. Now, he goes on MSNBC, and he says this, quote, it's a classic shakedown. That's going to be the argument. These Senate Republicans, should the Democrats vote for impeachment, which is far more likely than not, are going to be pinned down to a yes or no answer. So, will you impeach the president based on what you know? So, well, I mean, look, that's the big question, right? So, the big question here, political question is, yeah, okay, so if the House does impeachment proceedings and actually delivers articles of impeachment and starts the whole process, well, the Republicans in the Senate, well, they're just going to defend Donald Trump no matter what, right? And they're not going to go for impeachment. And what Mike Murphy is saying is there is a situation in where they might actually do so. He said, quote, the politics of it will get worse and worse for Trump. One Republican senator told me that if it was a secret vote, 30 Republican senators would vote to impeach Trump. The Democrats need 20. 30. But only if it's on a secret vote. So now that's interesting / disastrous because it shows how weak the Republican Party really is and how much, how scared they are of their voters and of Donald Trump. I mean, and this is the thing, right? They despise Donald Trump in private. And we've known this for a very long time. They hate Donald Trump in private. But in public, they're like, Donald Trump, what are you talking about? I love the man. MAGA. But in private, again, they're like, yeah, I'd totally impeach him if I could. If it was secret, well, that's not how impeachment works. So, pretty unlikely. But then again, that does show that if more evidence comes out and it's overwhelming, that you could have these Republicans eventually go, okay, look, it's too much. It's too much. I have to. Or else it's the end of the Republican Party as we know it. And we will be, synonymous with corruption and Donald Trump. We don't want to go quite that far. But there's one Republican that does. And that's Senator Lindsey Graham. Of course. So Lindsey Graham earlier said it's insane to impeach a president over a phone call. But it's not over the phone call. It's over the quid pro quo. And it's also saying, telling a world leader that, hey, man, we would really like you. I would really like it if you did me a favor of investigating my political opponent. That is illegal. Doesn't matter. It is 100% illegal, full stop. Doesn't matter the context. He said, you do me a favor, you investigate Joe Biden and his son. Case closed. It's over. It's over. Yet Lindsey Graham, he says this. He says, Joe Biden is a very good friend, but we can't have a country where one side looks and the other one does not. Now, here's the thing: is what Joe and Hunter Biden did was that wrong? Of course, it's deeply, deeply shady. So there's a big problem there. And so, look, if you want to look into Hunter Biden or Joe Biden and their improper relationship with that gas company, okay, that fine, but you can't ignore and let that overshadow what Trump had done, and that's a campaign finance violation that is literally breaking the law and is worthy of impeachment. But he also added this. This is Graham again. He said the Ukrainian president did not feel threatened. He was the target of a phone call. He felt fine with what happened. Are you sure? I have read it just like you have. You can make your own decision, but from a quid pro quo aspect of the phone call, there's nothing there suggesting that a prosecutor may have been fired because of a conflict of interest. And Graham says it was very appropriate for Trump to suggest Ukraine investigate the Bidens. This is the same Lindsey Graham that in 1999 voted to impeach President Bill Clinton, who was accused of lying about an affair. So that's Lindsey Graham, who is literally Donald Trump's. He is now. So we called Mitt Romney Reek, right? Maybe it's Lindsey Graham. No, you know what? No, that's actually not a good comparison because Reek was broken. Lindsey Graham came into this willingly. He said, "Oh, Donald Trump, I know I made fun of you. I know I said some terrible things about you, but I really need a boyfriend. Not in a gay sense, right? But like he needs a buddy. He needs a John McCain to complete him. And what's ironic is the John McCain, if he were alive, I don't think that he would be backing Donald Trump. I think he would be like Mitt Romney and be like, this is deeply, deeply troubling. We need more information." So there's that. So there's actually more too. The Justice Department, they also weighed in. Justice Department headed by William Barr, right? So they said that no criminal campaign finance violation occurred during President Trump's call, and they said that since there was no quantifiable thing of value under discussion in the call, that they can't do anything about it. There's no crime there, nothing quantifiable. Well, he's not going to come out and say that explicitly that we know of. Then again, we've only seen a summary, a memo, not the official transcript, which could have a lot of things that were taken out that are not in there. So, and look, if you're even somewhat smart and don't want to be super obvious, or even if you're dumb but don't want to be obvious, you're going to talk in code. That code would be, we've been very good to you, but you haven't reciprocated. Now I need a favor. This is the best that they can do. So now I've got response here from Democrats. Now, this is Representative Adam Schiff. He's the Democratic chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, and he has been very, very weak on impeachment. Now, not so much. He said, the transcript of the call reads like a classic mob shakedown. We do a lot for Ukraine. There's not much reciprocity. I have a favor to ask. Investigate my opponent. My people will be in touch. Nice country you got there. It would be a shame if something happened to her, or if you didn't get your money. Essentially, the subtext of the call. And finally, Elizabeth Warren said, this transcript itself is a smoking gun. If this is the version of events the president's team thinks is most favorable, he is in very deep jeopardy. We need to see the full whistleblower complaint, and the administration needs to follow the law now. So, and I agree with her because there's no question that the official whistleblower complaint has to come out. And that we need the actual transcript, not just a memo edited by the White House. We also need William Barr, the Justice Department, to recuse himself. He should not be in charge during this investigation. Totally not fair, totally not impartial. Has protected Donald Trump before, and we saw this during the Mueller report, where he, put out a summary that did not say, what the Mueller report actually said, which pointed out 10 different counts of obstruction. So you can't trust William Barr, and especially since he's in this. He's one of the people that Trump said, you should get in touch with. Get in touch with my people. That's Rudy Giuliani. That's William Barr. So that's your response so far, and there's plenty more that's going to come out, but already battle lines drawn, and it's going to be interesting to see who's on ends up on what side. All right, so with that, let's go to one more story about this that's related, and that is an email oopsie. That's all I can say. Amazing. Okay. As if this day could not get worse for Donald Trump and the Republican Party, it appears that the Trump White House had accidentally emailed talking points intended for congressional Republicans to congressional Democrats. Talk about oops. Now, this was reported by Politico's Andrew Desiderio and the Washington Post's Jacqueline Alamany. The White House had sent out an email with the header, "What you need to know," to Democratic lawmakers that outlined Republican talking points on that memo between Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky. So now, the talking points are what you'll see, right? What you've already started to see from the different Republicans that are defending President Trump. And so part of that was, of course, saying that it's entirely appropriate, and this is what Lindsey Graham had said, for the president to pressure a foreign leader to investigate a political rival. Not appropriate. That's actually a crime, literally. And then saying that, no, the real story here is Vice President Joe Biden's corruption. Oh, no, that's the real story. Oh, okay. Now, the two reporters also revealed that the Trump White House quickly realized its error and sent out a recall. Hey, that email that you got from us, Democrats, that wasn't meant for you. Can we have that back? Can you just delete that email? We'd super appreciate it if you just shut that whole thing down. You hit that just right there, delete button on the email, right there. Hit the button. But no, not the print screen button. No, you don't want screenshot. No, that takes a screenshot. Delete. Delete. Hilarious. I wonder if that's actually happened. That conversation. It'd be hilarious. So now I want to give you the screenshots. Okay, take a look at these. So this is the first one, right? So myth. The president made a mysterious promise to Zelensky in return for Ukraine reviving an investigation into Biden. Fact. No such promise. No, it was more of him like saying, hey, we've been really good to you. Why don't you do me a solid and investigate Biden? Then there's the quid pro quo, which of course is not explicit, but there's a lot of implicit quid pro quo for that military aid. And so you can see these talking points, right? What the president talked about was entirely proper. I would say very, very proper. Yes. Did not mention Rudy Giuliani or Vice President Biden. No, actually, Biden was mentioned by Trump. Although, to be fair, Giuliani was not. Oh, and the real scandal is the telephone call that triggered a media frenzy. Well, it's the leaker. It's the leaks that triggered the frenzy. So your pretty standard talking points. I've actually got another page of talking points here. Let's be clear. There was no quid pro quo. These are unique circumstances that require the transcript to be released so if the American people are to know the truth. This is just and on that, this is just an example of the deep state. They're going to the deep state. So deep state, of course, conspiracy. So that's great. So these ended up in the Democrats' inbox, and they're like, oh, that's interesting. Now we know exactly what they're going to say. Oops. Now, as far as the legality issue, right? again, asking a foreign government to do an investigation completely and 100% illegal. That's a crime. Just saying right now. Okay. So now I want to get to some tweets. Because again, this was Desiderio tweeted this out on Twitter, obviously. And so there are some fun responses. I want to read some of them because they're hilarious. His dudeness says, How are they so bad at this? The only people that are actually worse than the Democrats that can somehow, and I'm still skeptical of them being able to pull this out because they've bungled it so bad before. More, Sean Redacted says, these are bad talking points. Not sure how anyone thought the real scandal is the whistleblower was a good idea. Yep. My name is 4133 says, I can't believe the well-oiled machine would do something like this. And Shadow Sleeper says, best reply I'll ever. And Max Trail finally says, is this that 4D chess they always talk about? Maybe. So now there's a little bit of speculation through some of these comments, and some of it's also on my part, that this was not actually an oopsie. Interesting. What if it was accidentally on purpose? Now, again, we know this is bad. Even their attempt to dress it up, also bad. This is a memo, and this is the best they could come up with. So what if a staffer says, you know what, I've had enough of this. Sent this to the Democrats to show what their talking points are, to show their ridiculous talking points so that Democrats can come up with a defense or actually attack. Because this is really weak. Again, they used the deep state in there. The conspiracy. That's a conspiracy that a shadowy cabal of people are against Donald Trump. Now, has there been a deep state before? Yes. But as far as a group of people in intelligence that are against Donald Trump and they're trying to take him down from the inside, well, they've been doing a really, really bad job trying to take down the dumbest person to occupy the White House yet. So, congratulations. Because Trump has not been punished for anything, for doing illegal things, which has been shown to have done. And maybe it's because people in positions of power seem to protect him a lot. Maybe that's part of that. But still, man, is this an accident, though, or is it a leak? And that's the question, right? Regardless of the answer, it looks like a pretty bad day for the president. And I cannot wait to see what develops next. Should be a lot of fun. Stay tuned. Okay. Man. I'm going to try to get through this as best I can. So this is switching gears. We'll go to taxing the rich. Now, on Tuesday, Senator Bernie Sanders proposed a brand new wealth tax to the richest Americans. It's an idea that's grown in popularity since AOC talked about taxing the rich at 70% earlier this year. But it's actually been around for a very long time. Bernie Sanders actually introduced a bill back in 2014. So now Elizabeth Warren made a lot of news when she came out with her own wealth tax earlier this year on ultra-millionaires. And now Bernie Sanders has put out his newest plan to tax the wealthy. And it's actually described as a tax on extreme wealth. And it actually is very, very bold. Now, what it would do is it would create a 1% tax on wealth between $32 and $50 million. That's where it starts. Already more aggressive than Elizabeth Warren's, and it gets better. It actually gets more progressively higher on the richest Americans. Now, before you freak out, this will not affect you. Regular people, if you're making $20,000 a year, $50,000 a year, $100,000 a year, this will not touch you. This is only for people making, at a start, over $32 million a year. Most people, you are not going to see that. This affects probably 0.1% of Americans. So now, let me give you the framework here. As I mentioned, the 1% tax on 32 to 50 million. That's just having that wealth, right? 2% tax on 50 to 250 million dollars. 3% on 250 to 500 million dollars. 4% on wealth from 500 to a billion. 6% on 2.5 to 5 billion. 7% on wealth from 5 to 10 billion, and 8% on wealth over $10 billion. So economists say that it would slash the fortunes of billionaires in half over 15 years and raise an estimated $4.3 trillion in revenue during the first decade. And it would also have the impact of making Jeff Bezos a lot less wealthy. Still, they would be incredibly wealthy. Bezos himself would pay about $9 billion in taxes per year. Remember, Jeff Bezos is worth about $120 billion. And after this wealth tax, he would end up being down to about $40 billion. Oh my God, only $40 billion for Jeff Bezos? Horrible. No, I'm kidding. It'd be great, actually. And that's the point here, right? To tax that wealth. Bernie Sanders said this: I don't think that billionaires should exist. This proposal does not eliminate billionaires, but it eliminates a lot of the wealth that billionaires have. And I think that's exactly what we should be doing. Now, why would you want to eliminate that much wealth? Well, because having that much in so few hands is actually dangerous for the country. I know you're thinking, wait. Why? Well, think about this. At a certain point, you don't need any more wealth. You're past the need for more money. You've got housing, transportation, food, energy, all the resources they would ever need for the rest of their lives. Plus anything recreational they want, art, whatever. And most importantly, they don't have to work. They have time to pursue any sort of creative outlet. That's wonderful for them. Now, these same people, though, they continue to make wealth off wealth, despite not having to actually actively earn it. It all ends up being passive income. So why should that income be allowed to concentrate into the hands of people who don't earn it and therefore will also never use it? I mean, that doesn't make sense, right? Why should billionaires be able to hoard immense wealth and starve the rest of us of its benefits? Does that make sense? You might think, okay, look, but how is it dangerous? Because the more wealth that it collects at the top, the less there is for anyone else. High levels of income inequality are not good for the long-standing health of a country. We have revolutions that have happened because of wealth and income inequality. Look, to save the billionaires, okay, let me go back here, right? So now, when you let wealth and inequality get to an extreme level, you will get an extreme response. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to prevent that extreme response. We are trying to prevent the pitchforks, the proverbial pitchforks, from coming out for the rich. This is how you do it. You tax their wealth. Or else, if you don't tax the wealth, then there's going to be another way that people are going to end up getting their share of the pie. Okay, a fair share. So we don't want that terrible thing to happen. Okay, and so here's the thing. Believe it or not, this wealth tax helps the 1% as well as the 99% because it prevents that. In fact, let me give you a letter from Gabriel Zuckman and Emmanuel Sayes. So those are economists, right? And they said a progressive wealth tax is the most direct policy tool to curb the growing concentration of wealth in the United States. Senator Sanders' very progressive wealth tax in the top 0.1% wealthiest Americans is a crucial step in that direction. Great. So now, in order to prevent the rich from evading the wealth tax, Sanders' plan would have enforcement and oversight mechanisms, create a national wealth registry. It would increase IRS funding for enforcement. It would create a 40% exit tax on the net value of all assets under $1 billion and 60% over $1 billion for all wealthy individuals seeking to expatriate to avoid paying that tax. Oh, you want to leave America? Well, that's going to cost you, buddy. I love that. Also, it would make enhancements to the international tax enforcement and anti-money laundering regime, including the strengthening of the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act. Now, all that money that he's going to raise, about $4.35 billion, will also be able to fund Medicare for all, universal child care. So how do the rich feel about this? Well, some actually are in favor. Morris Pearl, chair of the Patriotic Millionaires, called this plan a welcome addition to our national tax debate. He said, the wealthiest people in this country haven't been paying their fair share for a long time, and part of that problem is because our tax code only taxes the wealthy based on how much income they choose to take each year. The very rich get money not from earning it each year, but from spending wealth that they've already made. And he said, if our tax laws only target one without touching the other, then rich folks like me will continue to find ways to game the system, and our inequality crisis will continue to get worse. We are thrilled to see this proposal and look forward to more dialogue on this critical issue moving forward in the debates. So, bless the patriotic millionaires. They sure do live up to their name. Now, other rich people may not be so happy about this. So now one more thing, and one more thing that's important to address. So the establishment press is putting out the narrative that it was Bernie Sanders is stealing Elizabeth Warren's idea, that she came up with the wealth tax first. Bernie Sanders, again, already put out a bill back in 2014. Not only that, but he had this idea back in 1997, puts this out. Now, I'm not trying to throw shade on Warren here. This is not Warren's fault. This is the establishment press coming out with dishonest framing. Now, one big difference, though, between Warren and Sanders' plan, yes, they're both a wealth tax, but Sanders' plan is more progressive. It's more robust. Warren's plan is a bit simpler, raises about $2.6 trillion over the next 10 years. That's about half. And that's because her bracket or her tax plan has only 2 brackets compared to Bernie Sanders' 8 brackets. She only goes to about 3% tax max for people making over $1 billion. So that's where she stops. So, of course, there's differences. And it's not a bad thing to point out those differences. It's not an attack on Warren to point out the differences between those 2 plans, because they are different, and you have to separate that out, because they are 2 different plans with sort of the same goal. In fact, I think Bernie Sanders' goal more is to let's stop having billionaires, whereas Elizabeth Warren is more of let's tax billionaires, but let's use that to pay for policy. And so I get that, right? So altogether, though, great plans, both of them. Both are progressive plans. But of course, Bernie Sanders wins out on having the best plan, the most progressive, and the most robust. So that's my opinion on that. All right. All right. I think let's end it there. All right. Thank you guys for going around the nation with me today. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Becoming a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation, or a channel member. Thank you to those that have signed up. Thank you to everybody who helps us on Patreon. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already to see more of our content. We usually put out a good amount of content per day. So check that out. All right. Thanks, guys. Love you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. We'll see you guys later.
Mike Pence.